When you're a kid, you think your parents will always do what's right, that they'll protect you, cheer you on, be your safety net if the world goes sideways. I used to think that too. I guess I held on to that belief longer than most people do. But this? What happened with the Civic? That was the moment everything shattered, and I realized just how disposable I was to them. My name's Jake. I'm 27, not married, no kids, just a regular guy trying to build a life for himself. I work in IT, nothing glamorous, but it pays decently, and I've been careful with my money. I don't party, I don't gamble, and I've never been the type to ask my family for anything. Honestly, I've always been the reliable one. The one who shows up on time to family events. The one who helps lift the heavy stuff when someone's moving. The one who picks up after the messes and doesn't complain. Growing up, I was the only child of a single dad. My mom passed away when I was 10. Since then, it's been me and my dad, Terry. He's old school, stoic, says a lot without saying much, but I always figured he had my back. I guess I wanted to believe that. Our extended families, well, complicated. Every Thanksgiving or Christmas, there's some kind of drama. My aunt crying in the kitchen, my uncle yelling at his kids, someone storming out halfway through dessert. You know the type. But still, we'd all show up, year after year, pretending everything was fine. Then there's Kevin, my cousin. He's a year younger than me, but you wouldn't know it by how he acts. Kevin's the kind of guy who always almost had a job or was just about to go back to school. You could count on one hand the number of weeks he's ever worked in his life. He's charming in that greasy, fast-talking way, always promising he's got something big lined up. My dad used to say, he's just figuring himself out. But Kevin's been figuring himself out since high school. Last I heard, he got his girlfriend pregnant. They weren't even together anymore, but he was telling everyone he was going to step up and be a real man now. No job, no car, no license, and no idea what responsibility even looks like. I, on the other hand, had finally hit a milestone. After years of budgeting and working overtime and driving my rusted old Corolla into the ground, I bought myself a 2023 Honda Civic. Nothing too flashy, just reliable, fuel-efficient, sleek enough to feel like I'd made it. It was my first brand new car. I remember the exact feeling driving it off the lot. Windows down, sun in my face, that fresh car smell filling the air like some kind of victory perfume. I'd made a spreadsheet for every payment, every maintenance schedule. And after 15 months of grinding, I finally made the last payment. I was proud of myself. I'd done it all without help. No cosigner. No handouts. Just me. 2 weeks after that final payment, I came home to an empty driveway. It was a Tuesday. I remember because I'd just wrapped a miserable day at work dealing with a network outage and a client who kept breathing directly into his mic during our Zoom call. I was mentally drained, craving nothing more than a hot shower, a microwave dinner, and a few hours of zoning out. But when I pulled into the driveway and saw the space where my Civic usually sat, completely empty, my stomach dropped. For a second, I thought maybe I'd parked it on the street. Or maybe it got towed. I jogged out to the curb, looked both ways. Nothing. I checked the garage. Empty. I checked the street again. Nothing. I stood there, heart pounding, already feeling the panic rising in my throat. I called the local impound. Gave them my license plate. The guy on the phone told me they hadn't towed anything from my address in the last 48 hours. Are you sure no one borrowed it? He asked. Family member? Friend. That's when the uneasy feeling in my gut twisted into something sharper. I called my dad. Hey, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Did you happen to move my car? Or did you see anyone messing with it? There was a pause. Then came a noise I hadn't expected. Laughter. He chuckled, like I'd just told him a knock-knock joke. Oh yeah? About that, he said casually, like he was giving me a weather update. We gave it to Kevin. I thought I misheard him. What? Kevin? You know, your cousin. He needed a car. His girlfriends do any day now. You don't really need it, do you? I went silent. It wasn't just the words, it was how he said it. Like it was obvious. Like I was being silly for even asking. Dad? I said slowly, trying to steady my breathing. You gave away my car? We didn't give it away, he said, defensively now. It's staying in the family. And you're single. You don't have kids. Kevin's got real responsibilities now. I felt the blood drain from my face. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. He doesn't even have a license. He's getting it sorted, my dad said dismissively. You know how the system is. Takes forever. We figured this would help him get on his feet. It's not like you're struggling. I stood in the driveway, phone pressed to my ear, feeling like I was in a dream, some absurd, backwards world where nothing made sense. I worked for that car, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I paid for it myself. No one helped me. That's not your decision to make. Another pause. Then a sigh. Jake, don't be dramatic. You're making this into a thing. It's family. We help each other. That word, family, suddenly felt poisonous. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I hung up. I stood there for a long time, trying to process what had just happened. The Civic was gone. My dad had handed it off like a used blender. And Kevin, the guy who once stole $200 from my grandma's wallet and claimed he was just borrowing it, was now behind the wheel of something I'd spent over a year working for. The thing is, it wasn't even about the car. Not really. It was about what it represented. The fact that my own father didn't see my effort. That he thought I didn't need what I earned just because I didn't have a kid or a chaotic life. That someone else's failure was more important than my success. That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, running through every conversation, every Thanksgiving, every time I'd loaned Kevin gas money and never got it back. Every time my dad brushed it off like, that's just Kevin. I remembered how proud my dad looked when I brought the Civic over that first week. How he clapped me on the back and said, look at you, all grown up. And now, it felt like he never meant any of it. The next morning, I did something I never thought I'd have to do. I filed a police report. And that was only the beginning. I wish I could say I filed that police report with a clear head, that I marched into the station, calm and resolute, with all my documents in order. But the truth is, I was shaking. Not from fear, exactly, more like disbelief. Rage, maybe. My hands trembled as I slid my registration and insurance card across the desk to the woman behind the counter. She glanced at them, then looked up at me with that practiced bureaucratic expression. This your vehicle? She asked, tapping the registration. Yes, I said. It was parked in my driveway. I came home yesterday, and it was gone. She nodded slowly. Do you suspect someone stole it? I hesitated. I know who took it. My cousin. But I didn't give him permission. That got her attention. It took about 20 minutes to get everything down. The make, model, VIN, license plate, timeline, and, of course, the strange fact that it had been given away by someone who wasn't the legal owner. She asked if I wanted to press charges. I didn't even blink. Yes, I said. Absolutely. After that, things moved faster than I expected. The officer on duty said they'd dispatch someone to follow up and look into Kevin's whereabouts. Since I had all the documentation and no co-signer, it was a pretty clear case. The car was mine. On paper. Legally. And yet somehow, my own family had treated it like a community garden. Just dig in when you need something. I didn't tell my dad right away. I couldn't. I didn't want another phone call where he talked to me like I was being unreasonable, like I was being selfish for wanting to keep the car I paid for. But that silence didn't last long. 2 days later, my phone started blowing up. Missed calls from my dad. Then my aunt, Kevin's mom. Then my other cousin Melissa, who always managed to insert herself into family drama like she was auditioning for a reality show. And then came the group chat messages. Our family group chat, ironically named the Fam Bam. Dad, you called the cops? Really, Jake? Aunt Cheryl, how could you do this to Kevin? He's going through enough already. Melissa, OMG, this is insane. You're gonna ruin his life over a car? I stared at my phone, mouth slightly open. Not a single message asking why I filed a report. Not one person asking what happened from my side. Just immediate outrage. Accusations. Guilt-tripping. But the worst message came from Kevin himself. Kevin, wow. I guess we know who the real family is. Don't worry, you'll get your little car back. Hope it keeps you warm at night when you're alone. That one hit different. It was the smugness. The implication that I was petty, heartless. That I was somehow in the wrong for wanting back what was stolen from me. I didn't respond. I left the group chat. The next day, I got a knock at the door. It was my dad. He didn't look angry. He looked disappointed. Which, for some reason, was even worse. Can we talk? He said, already stepping inside before I answered. I crossed my arms as he walked into the living room like it was still his house. He glanced around, took a deep breath, then turned to me. I don't understand what you're doing, he said. Why would you escalate things like this? I stared at him, incredulous. You gave away my car, Dad. Without asking. You just handed it off. It wasn't like that. It was like that, I snapped. You didn't call. You didn't leave a note. You didn't ask. You just decided I didn't need it as much as Kevin did. He looked away. He's having a baby, Jake. And I worked 2 jobs to afford that car, I said. You think that doesn't matter? Because I don't have a kid? Because I don't dump my responsibilities on everyone else. You always had it easier, he said quietly. That stopped me cold. Easier, I repeated, stunned. You didn't struggle like he did, my dad said. You had me. Kevin didn't have a father figure. Cheryl worked 3 jobs. He's been through a lot. So have I said, louder than I meant to. I lost Mom. You were working most nights. I raised myself half the time. He shook his head like I wasn't getting the point. You turned out fine. Kevin needs support. No, I said, my voice low now. Kevin needs consequences. That's the difference. My dad didn't say anything for a while. Just stood there, staring at the floor. Finally, he muttered, "This is bigger than a car." No, I said. It's exactly about the car. It's about boundaries. It's about respect. And it's about the fact that you don't seem to care when people cross mine. That was the last time we spoke in person. The police tracked Kevin down within a week. He'd been using the Civic to drive his girlfriend to prenatal appointments, without a license, mind you, and even got pulled over once. Apparently, he told the officer it was a family car, and they let him off with a warning. Unreal. But once the report was on file, things moved fast. They impounded the car and called me to confirm pickup. The day I got the car back, I felt empty. I thought it would feel like a win, like justice. But instead, I just felt drained. I sat in the driver's seat for a long time, hands on the wheel, smelling traces of someone else's cologne, fast food bags in the passenger seat, a baby onesie crumpled in the back. That was when I realized the car wasn't the only thing taken from me. It was trust. It was my sense of place in the family, that invisible thread that makes you think, these are my people. They won't hurt me. Over the next month, the Cold War began. No one from the family reached out, except Melissa, who sent me a cryptic DM that just said, "I hope it was worth it." Kevin posted a photo on Instagram of himself holding a cardboard sign that said, "I lost everything because of greed." In the comments, his friends and random extended cousins left angry emojis and words like snitch and traitor. But the worst part was my dad. He didn't return my texts. I sent him a message on his birthday, no reply. I called on Thanksgiving, straight to voicemail. It was like I'd been erased. Not even disowned. Just deleted. At first, I tried to tell myself it would blow over. That once the emotions cooled, he'd come around. That maybe he'd even apologize. But Christmas came and went with no word. And then January. And then February. Until one night in March, I got a call from my cousin Leah. Leah's different. She's older, mid-30s, married with kids, lives 2 states over. We weren't super close, but we got along. She always seemed like the only adult in the room at family gatherings. No drama, no manipulation. I picked up, surprised. "Hey," she said, her voice low. "I just wanted you to hear it from me." My stomach dropped. "What?" "Kevin's been staying with your dad." I blinked. "What do you mean?" "Since January. He moved in, brought the baby and everything. Cheryl kicked him out after a fight with the girlfriend. Your dad offered the spare room." I sat down, heart pounding. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because they're using your name to apply for a loan." Silence. I couldn't speak. I overheard them talking when I visited last week. Leah continued. "Kevin said something about needing a new car and that your credit score was good. Your dad didn't say anything. Just nodded." I felt like I couldn't breathe. "They're trying to open something under your name," she said. "I don't know if they've done it yet. I just thought you should know." That was it. That was the moment everything broke. Not the car. Not the group chat drama. Not even the silence from my dad. It was the idea that they'd do it again. That they saw my boundaries, my no, my line in the sand, and decided to go around it anyway. That's when the old Jake, the one who tried to be the bigger person, who believed family was sacred, who stayed quiet to avoid drama, finally disappeared. And someone new took his place. I barely slept that night. After Leah hung up, I sat in the dark living room for hours, staring at nothing, the phone still clenched in my hand. I kept rereading our text thread, her words echoing louder than the silence around me. "They're using your name." It felt surreal, like I'd stepped out of my own life and into someone else's family horror story. I had this tight, cold feeling in my chest, part panic, part betrayal, part shame. And I didn't even know what I was ashamed of. Maybe it was the fact that I still believed, even after everything, that my dad wouldn't go that far. That somewhere deep down, I had clung to the hope that he might feel guilty, that he'd come around. But now, he wasn't just defending Kevin anymore. He was actively helping him steal from me. Again, that night, I froze my credit. I sat up in bed with my laptop glowing blue in the dark, creating fraud alerts, locking down my accounts, checking for anything suspicious. I called my bank. I called my credit card companies. I created a PIN with the IRS to protect my taxes. I did everything the internet told me to do when your own family tries to hijack your life. And when all of that was done, I cried. Not the loud, dramatic kind of crying. Just quiet, bitter tears that kept leaking out, even after I told myself to stop. I didn't even know what I was mourning. My car, my dad, my childhood? Probably all of it. The days after that were hollow. I'd go to work, run through the motions, nod when people talked to me, laugh at jokes I didn't hear. I'd come home, heat up leftovers, sit on the couch, and just exist. It felt like everything I'd worked for meant nothing. I had the car back, but it didn't feel like mine anymore. I had money saved, but it felt like a target on my back. I had no partner, no kids, and apparently, that meant I didn't matter in the grand scheme of the family. I hit rock bottom about a week later. It was a Saturday. Cold, rainy, gray. I was halfway through my morning coffee when I got an envelope in the mail. Just a plain white one, no return address. Inside was a folded piece of paper with a blurry screenshot printed on it. It was an application for a loan, half-filled, with my name typed in the applicant box. It had my birthday, my last 4 digits of my social, and my current address. The rest was incomplete, just left blank, like someone got interrupted halfway through. On the back, written in messy all-caps handwriting, were 4 words. "Watch your back, Jake." My hands shook. I reported it to the police again. They logged it, said they'd keep it on record, but unless a loan actually went through or I could prove who sent it, there wasn't much they could do. And that was it. I remember sitting in the parking lot outside the station, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. My Civic, still had Kevin's air freshener hanging from the mirror. One of those cheap pine tree ones, half faded and stale. I ripped it down and threw it out the window. I don't know what changed that day. Maybe it was hitting bottom. Maybe it was realizing that no one was coming to save me. But something clicked. Something hard and necessary. I was done being the victim. I stopped looking for apologies. I stopped checking my phone for messages from my dad. I stopped letting the past shape how I saw myself. Instead, I made a plan. The first thing I did was cancel the lease on my apartment. It was a nice enough place, small, clean, close to work, but it wasn't mine. It felt temporary, disposable, like I was just a guest in my own life. I'd been saving up for a while, telling myself maybe I'd buy in a few years. But now, I didn't want to wait. I wanted roots. Walls no one could take from me. A mailbox that was mine. I spent 2 months researching, visiting open houses, talking to mortgage brokers. I found a modest 2-bedroom townhouse on the edge of town. Nothing fancy, but it had a little backyard, a solid kitchen, and, most importantly, a garage I could lock. Closing took forever, and I had to jump through a few extra hoops thanks to the credit freeze, but it all went through. I moved in on a rainy Sunday with no help. Just me, a rented truck, and a playlist of old songs I used to listen to in high school when I needed to feel invincible. The second bedroom I turned into a home office. Not for work, but for me. A place where I could sit, think, build. I bought a whiteboard and filled it with goals. Real goals, not just save money or get promoted. Things like, take a vacation, alone, somewhere warm, get certified in cybersecurity, start a side project just for fun, stop answering guilt with kindness. It felt like I was building myself from scratch, not fixing the old version, not patching up holes, just starting over. Around this time, something strange started happening. People, coworkers, old friends, started noticing. One day, my boss pulled me aside after a meeting. "You've been really sharp lately," she said. "Focused, confident. Have you thought about taking on a leadership role?" I blinked. "What?" She laughed. "Seriously, there's an opening coming up. Team lead. You should consider applying." A week later, a guy I'd gone to college with messaged me on LinkedIn. He ran a small tech firm now and said he was impressed with some of the open source scripts I'd posted. Asked if I ever did freelance work. It was like the more I stepped away from my family, the more myself I became. Lighter, clearer. But that doesn't mean I stopped thinking about them. There were days I'd drive past the old neighborhood, see my dad's truck in the driveway, and wonder if he missed me, if he regretted what he'd done. If Kevin was still living there, sleeping in my old bedroom, playing house with his girlfriend and their kid while my dad made him pancakes and told him he was doing his best. There were nights I'd scroll through Instagram and see my cousins at some birthday party, all smiles and inside jokes, and feel that old pang of loneliness, of exclusion, of wanting to be seen. But then I'd remember the letter. Watch your back, Jake. And the feeling would harden. Not into hate. Not anymore. Just clarity. These people weren't my tribe. They weren't my future. One afternoon, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something in me was curious. Hello. There was a pause. Then a familiar voice. Hey man. Kevin. I didn't say anything. Just listened. I heard you moved. Congrats. I stayed silent. I just wanted to say I get it now, he continued. Like what you did. Filing the report. All of it. I was mad at the time, but I don't know. Maybe you were right. Still, I said nothing. I've been trying to get my act together, he added, like it was some kind of redemption arc. Got a temp job. Paying off some stuff. Trying to get back on track. I let the silence stretch. Finally, he said, anyway, I guess I just wanted to say sorry. That word, sorry. It didn't hit the way he probably thought it would. It felt flat. Hollow. Like someone tossing a coin in a wishing well after already burning down the town. I hung up without replying. And for the first time in months, I smiled. Because I realized something important. This wasn't my fall. This was my rise. And I wasn't done yet. They say success is the best revenge, but I wasn't looking for poetic victories anymore. I wanted clarity. Control. Justice, yes, but not just a slap on the wrist. I didn't want to just win the moral argument. I wanted the kind of revenge that sat in silence for months, waited patiently behind the scenes, and struck so cleanly, so devastatingly, that no one even saw it coming. Not with fists, not with yelling, with strategy. And I had time. Time, resources, and, finally, a calm head. After Kevin's surprise apology call, if you could even call it that, I knew something was off. He wasn't the type to reflect or feel guilt. And the way he worded it, I get why you did it, not, I'm sorry for what I did, told me everything. He wasn't sorry. He was scouting, trying to feel out where I stood. If I was still angry, if I was watching, and I was. See, I'd spent the last 3 months doing more than rebuilding myself. I'd been documenting everything. I pulled all my credit reports, Experian, TransUnion, Equifax, and combed through them like a detective with a red string board. I printed bank statements, traced weird activity. I filed a formal complaint with the FTC and set up an identity theft case with the local fraud department. I spoke to a lawyer friend from college, Natalie, who specialized in financial abuse and family fraud. She was the first person to validate how insane this all was. You need to start thinking of this not as family drama, but as a criminal pattern, she told me over coffee one day. They're exploiting your identity. If you let this slide again, it escalates. So I took her advice. I stopped thinking like Jake the son, Jake the cousin. I started thinking like Jake the plaintiff. And the more I dug, the worse it got. First, I discovered that someone had tried, twice, to open a furniture financing account using my name. One attempt failed. The other actually went through and was never paid. It wasn't a huge amount, just under $2,000, but it had tanked my score by 60 points. I was furious. I disputed the charge, froze everything even tighter, and reported it again. And then came the final straw. One night, I was scanning through old text threads, just looking for evidence, when I remembered something Kevin had said months ago. We figured this would help him get on his feet. We, not he, we. And it clicked. My dad hadn't just enabled Kevin. He'd been part of it. All of it. The car. The loan attempts. Maybe even the idea to use my name in the first place. There's something that breaks inside you when you realize your own parent doesn't just fail to protect you, but offers you up like some sacrificial lamb for the more deserving relative. And the worst part? He still didn't see it as wrong. To him, it was just doing what needed to be done for family. So I decided I'd give them exactly what they wanted. I'd give them a lesson in family values. Just not the kind they were expecting. That's when the setup began. Step 1 was control. I had to make sure they couldn't use me again. Not my name. Not my credit. Not my resources. I hired a private fraud monitoring service and gave them every detail, every attempted account, every email, every address associated with Kevin or my dad. I locked down my phone plan, switched carriers, changed passwords on everything, and set up two-factor authentication for every account I had. Step 2 was documentation. Natalie helped me draft a timeline, a formal, written record of every violation. From the moment the car disappeared to the mailed loan application to the discovered furniture account. Screenshots, receipts, bank statements, audio recordings. Yes, I'd recorded that phone call with Kevin. It became a digital war chest. Not for court, at least not yet, but in case things escalated. And something told me they would. Step 3 was leverage. I needed information. Proof. And that meant watching, without being seen. I started by creating a dummy Facebook account. It wasn't hard. A few stock photos, a generic name, and suddenly I was Jason, a single dad with an interest in DIY projects. I friended a few people, posted some believable content, then started looking for people in Kevin's social circle. It didn't take long. His girlfriend, Shayna, had her profile wide open. Her feed was a goldmine. Pictures of the baby, cute kid, no hate there. Posts complaining about how some people don't step up, while others are real men. A tag post from Kevin showing off a new project car with the caption, "Second chance life, here I come." I clicked on the picture. It was my Civic, still dented in the back from when I parallel parked badly last winter. But this time, sitting in some random driveway. Spray painted black. They'd repainted my car to hide it, and now it was back in their possession? I was stunned. I knew I'd gotten it back once, had driven it home myself, but then I'd traded it in when I bought the townhouse. Did the dealership resell it locally? Was Kevin dumb enough to buy it back? Or had someone else bought it, and Kevin borrowed it again? It didn't matter. What mattered was that they couldn't leave well enough alone. They always came back. That's when I called the dealership. The guy I spoke to was helpful, but cautious. "We can't share buyer information, but yeah, the Civic you traded in did get sold recently. Cash buyer. No financing involved." That narrowed it down. Kevin didn't have a license. No bank account with that much in it, which meant one of his enablers bought it back for him. And I had a good guess who. It was time to go deeper. I bought a burner phone, paid cash, loaded it up with a new number and signed it up to a few spam sites Kevin was known to frequent. Crypto giveaways, sketchy job boards, Craigslist offers. I knew he couldn't resist a get paid fast link. I wasn't going to scam him. I just wanted his patterns, his clicks, where he was, what he responded to. I tracked his IP pings to an address I already knew by heart. My father's. So Kevin was living there again, probably with the girlfriend, maybe the baby, which meant my dad was either still pretending nothing had happened or was fully in on the grift again. Fine. Let them all get comfortable. Let them think I was gone. In the meantime, I started putting together my network. Leah was the first to join me, eagerly. "I'm so glad you're finally doing something about this," she said. "Honestly, I've kept my distance for years because of the way they talk about you. Like you're selfish, arrogant. It's disgusting." She shared old family texts, screenshots of a group chat I hadn't been part of in years. In one, Kevin had written, "Jake's always had to stick up his. Let him rot in that stupid tech job." In another, Aunt Cheryl had said, "Well, if he doesn't want to be part of the family, then don't include him in the trust talk." Wait, trust? That's when Leah paused. "Oh, yeah, you don't know about that." "What trust?" "Apparently, after my mom died, there was a small life insurance payout, enough to seed a modest trust account in my name. My dad had always said it wasn't accessible until I turned 30. Only, that wasn't true. According to Leah, it had been converted years ago, moved around through different family-managed financial accounts. And the only name listed on the account now? Terrence J. Marsh, my father. And the trust? Was empty. I didn't speak. I couldn't. My hands went cold. The floor under me felt like it shifted sideways. They hadn't just stolen things. They'd stolen years. Money meant for me. Left behind by my mother. Gone. And my dad never told me. I ended that call with one sentence. "I'm not holding back anymore." Natalie and I got to work the next day. It's strange how quiet revenge can be. No dramatic showdowns. No screaming matches in driveways. No viral videos of chairs being thrown across family dinners. Just paperwork. Just silence. and consequences that arrive like the ticking of a clock you forgot was running. Natalie and I worked fast. The missing trust funds were priority one. Within a week, she filed an official inquiry with the insurance company my mother had used. It turned out Leo was right. My mom's life insurance policy had paid out a modest $75,000 when she passed. Enough to give me a real head start in life. A cushion. Something my dad had promised was sitting in a trust until I turned 30. But there was no trust. It had been dissolved quietly 10 years ago, when I was 17. Just as I was applying to college and asking if we could afford a used laptop. Just as my dad said we'd need to take out student loans because we didn't have much. The payout had gone into a joint account, under my name and his. By the time I turned 20, it was emptied. All of it. No paper trail of what it was used for, no tuition receipts, no home renovations, nothing. Just cash withdrawals, payments to vague vendors, and a few entries labeled personal transfer. That was enough. We filed a civil suit against my father. It wasn't about the money anymore. Not really. It was about the truth. The official, documented truth. A paper trail that could no longer be hidden behind family. A record that would follow him into every future attempt to seem like the wise patriarch or grieving widower. But that wasn't all. We pressed criminal charges too, on Kevin. For identity theft. For attempted credit fraud. For vehicle theft, again, now fully documented with timelines and images. I had every receipt. Every screenshot. Every message. Even his voice on a call admitting, "I guess I understand why you filed it." The D8 didn't laugh at the case. They moved it forward. Kevin was arrested 6 weeks later. It wasn't some grand spectacle. He wasn't tackled in the street or handcuffed in front of his kid. He was taken from my father's house, quietly, in the early hours of a Thursday morning. My neighbor texted me after reading the blotter in the local paper. I didn't celebrate. Not right away, because I knew what was coming next. The family reaction. And it came like a tsunami. Melissa texted first. "You're really putting your own cousin in jail? What happened to loyalty?" Aunt Cheryl called next, left a voicemail that started weepy and ended with her screaming, "I hope you feel big now." My dad didn't call. He wrote me a letter. A handwritten one. The same man who'd helped his nephew steal my car, drain my trust, and repaint a stolen vehicle to hide it from me, sent a carefully worded, elegant letter. "Jake, I wish things had turned out differently. But you've made your choices, and I suppose I have to live with mine. I hope, in time, you can see that I did what I thought was right for the family." No apology. No remorse. Just that signature passive voice that cowards use when they want to sound noble while holding a dagger behind their back. I scanned the letter and added it to the evidence archive. Then I blocked his number, for good. Kevin took a plea deal. He avoided jail, barely, but ended up with 3 years of probation, community service, and mandatory financial counseling. The judge was clear. "You're walking a tightrope. One slip, and you're behind bars." He cried in court. Shayna didn't show up. Rumor was, she'd moved back in with her mom. My father never appeared in the courtroom. He didn't show his face again until the civil case went public. See, Natalie made sure the suit was filed in the county court where my dad still liked to walk around like he owned the place. The filings were public. The allegations, clear and damning. Financial exploitation of a minor. Misappropriation of life insurance funds. Breach of fiduciary duty. He tried to deny it. Claimed I was mentally unstable and misremembering. He hired a lawyer who sent us a bizarre counterclaim that I was waging a personal vendetta. Natalie sent a reply brief, so scathing I reread it 3 times for fun. A month later, he settled. He paid back $68,000 in a lump sum, likely from a loan or savings account he swore he didn't have. He didn't admit guilt. He didn't offer a statement. He just signed the papers and disappeared. And I used every penny of that money to do the one thing he never believed I could. I started my own business. A small cybersecurity firm, focused on fraud prevention. Just me, one part-time assistant, and a few clients to start. But it was real. Tangible. Mine. I even put up a small sign in the front of the office suite. Marsh Security. You can't steal what's locked down. I knew it was petty. I didn't care. Leah became my first unofficial client. Had me review her own credit and accounts. Melissa tried to message me once more, this time begging me to reconsider because her fiancé worked in local government and the whole thing was making them look bad. I replied with a screenshot of a spam filter I'd named Toxic Family. I never heard from her again. But the most satisfying moment? It came 3 months after the dust settled. I got a letter. Not from my dad. From my grandfather. He was 92. Still alive. Still lucid. He'd heard everything. He hadn't spoken much during the last decade. Mostly stayed silent while my dad played the role of family leader. But his letter was short. And perfect. Jake, I always knew you were the one with spine. Sorry I didn't step in sooner. They won't take anything from you again. Grandpa, that was it. That was the moment the war ended. Not with explosions. Not with applause. Just a single line from the oldest man in the family, reminding me that silence wasn't always agreement, and that some people had been watching. I framed the letter. Put it on the shelf next to the title to my new car. A better one. One I bought cash. One that no one but me has ever driven. I don't talk to my father anymore. Kevin moved states, last I heard. Some distant cousin said he was working nights somewhere, and I hope he's learning how to earn what he wants instead of leeching off everyone else. But I don't follow. I don't check up. Because for the first time in my life, I'm not looking over my shoulder. And if they ever come near me again, let's just say, I'm not the same Jake they stole from. I'm the one who got it all back and made them pay for every piece. And they'll never touch me again. Not now. Not ever. Not a single inch.